There are no other two people out there who have a bigger impact on the modern history of money. Actually, it's not so much about who they are, but what they did. Their actions had, have, and will have a major influence on our daily life and on our wealth. Do you want to make educated financial decisions? Then there's no way to miss out on the fundamental financial knowledge shared in this video. In 1971, the rules of money changed. That year, US President Nixon closed the gold window, instantly turning money, namely the US dollar, into a currency. This was one of the most important monetary shifts to happen in modern history. Yet, few people understand why. In a nutshell, this change resulted in the value of the dollar continuing to steadily decline because of inflation. Basically, what your money can buy in the future is less than what it can purchase now. To understand what exactly happened, we need to start a few years earlier. In 1944, the Bretton Woods system was introduced to stabilize the global currency structure by introducing fixed exchange rates after World War II. It was based on an indirect gold standard, where international currencies were backed by the US dollar and the US dollar was backed by gold. This currency system led to a golden time of capitalism. In spite of the successful creation of wealth around the world, the Bretton Woods system was ended by President Nixon when in 1971 he declared the end of the so-called gold standard. As a result of this declaration, inflation started to rise exponentially. Costs of living exploded. When in 1970 the US consumer needed 2.5x of his salary to buy a house, in 2020 he needed 7 times his salary to afford a home. Moreover, all major currencies around the world have experienced severe devaluations compared to the gold price. For several smaller currencies, this even meant a complete breakdown. We have seen these failures recently in Lebanon, Sri Lanka or Argentina. More, the national debt levels have risen tremendously. When in 1971 the US debt was at around 400 billion, it is now at 31.5 trillion and was just raised by another 4 trillion. However, how tremendous this development is gets even more obvious when looking at the debt to GDP ratio. The GDP represents the value of all goods and services produced by a country within a year. In 1971, this ratio was at around 35%. Thanks to the recent events in the last couple of years, this ratio has risen to a stunning 123%. This means the US now has more debt than its economy produces within a year. Today, the United States pay $1.3 billion in interest per day. But why would Nixon do this? Before 1971, the government spending was limited to the fact that new money could only be printed depending on the amount of gold sitting in the National Reserve. Since Nixon's ending of the gold standard, money could be printed out of thin air and is backed by faith and credit of the US government only. Consequently, the government spending exploded, leading to benefits for many politicians. Herein, we can definitely see one of the arguments why the gold standard was terminated. More, it was an attempt to counter the dollar overvaluation, as the US did not have enough gold in comparison to the amount of US dollar circulating around. This was caused by a heavy increase of American goods imported from foreign goods, which in turn led to an export of US dollar. This generated pressure on the US as the foreign countries were looking to exchange their US dollar. By ending the gold backing of the dollar, money could simply be printed, resulting in a heavy loss of value for the US dollar. Also, in the years leading up to this event, high inflation rates had been hitting hard on the US economy and thus on the job market. By ending the gold standard, Nixon attempted to slow down inflation, foster the job market and domestic economy, as he could now print US dollars on demand and introduce them into the market. Some also argue that he needed more money to finance the Vietnam War. As such, the ability to print money on demand facilitated the financing of the war. In the end, these steps led to the modern money theory with free floating currency at its core. In this theory, governments that issue their own currency, like the US, are free to spend as much as they want, regardless of the amount of tax revenue generated. And if the government ends up with a spending deficit, it can just print up more money to cover the difference. It's like getting a second credit card to pay the debt of your first credit card. Or, to say it in the words of Ray Dalio, the founder of the world's biggest hedge fund, cash is trash and will inevitably lose its value in the long run. As such, Nixon can be described as the one person in the modern history of money leading the global financial world to higher inflation, more recessions, and higher volatility. In short, Nixon did not contribute to improving our lives. Rather, his actions led to our societies choosing short-term gains on the back of long-term losses. All this by introducing paper money. Do you enjoy this video? If so, subscribe to my channel and like this video. Your support is very much appreciated. Now, you might wonder, who can possibly be the second person? What the hell has this guy done? It definitely can't be any worse. Or can it? You know, most stories always have a good and a bad guy, right? So, here comes the good guy. His name is Satoshi Nakamoto. Satoshi who? Satoshi Nakamoto. He is the founder of Bitcoin. However, he decided to stay anonymous, so this is only a pseudonym used to publish Bitcoin. Up to this date, it is unknown if Nakamoto was an individual or a group of people. There are a lot of speculations about who is behind Bitcoin. A lot of people perceive that the cypherpunks are behind Bitcoin. The cypherpunks are a group of people who developed things like public key cryptography and digital signatures, which are all present in Bitcoin. However, there's no proof of this connection. There are also some wilder theories out there, some even claiming a government organization could have invented Bitcoin. We don't know. In the end, nobody knows the truth. And that's actually a really positive thing, as this keeps the focus on the idea of Bitcoin and not the person behind it. Moreover, it strengthens its decentralization and independence. This is especially remarkable, as there is no company, bank or government behind Bitcoin. Basically, Bitcoin consists of a network of computers spread around the world. But what the heck is Bitcoin actually? And why is Satoshi the good guy? Well, because Bitcoin is the counterpart to paper money, to soft money. Bitcoin is hard money. It is also often described as the modern, improved digital version of gold. Yes, you heard that right, of gold, the precious metal at home in Mother Earth. The better version of the most stable and safest asset in the world. How the hell can that be? How can there be a better version of gold invented by a guy named Satoshi Nakamoto nobody knows about? Well, here's Bitcoin in a nutshell. It's a digital currency released in late 2008 without physical coins that operates independently of a central bank. Its supply is capped to 21 million. This makes it a deflationary currency, which means its value can increase over time. There's no chance to print or create more than 21 million Bitcoin. Bitcoin is a monetary system based on a decentralized network. There's no entity behind it. As such, it can be considered as the first hard money after Nixon ended the gold standard in 1971. It can change the rules of money for good. You want to know more about Bitcoin? Check out my complete beginner guide video to learn all the fundamentals and understand why it is a true game changer.